Hey everybody, welcome back. Little change of venue today. Today we're out here in the shop where I work on a lot of stuff. And as you can see, I'm sitting next to this beautiful speaker from Eggleston Works. This is the Andra 3 model. It's the signature edition. And another customer sent this in. I've done several videos on some earlier Eggleston Works speakers, and there was a lot of room for improvement. I mean, granted, these are beautiful on the outside and really well made, but there's been some issues in the guts of these speakers. The crossovers could use a little help. Again, this isn't the first one of these that I've received. I started out with the Eggleston Fontaine, and if you remember back when I received the Fontaine, it had one of the common issues that I've seen a lot with the Eggleston speakers were the tweeter and the mid-bass drivers were out of phase, and there was a huge hole in the response. In fact, let's take a look at the measured frequency response of the Eggleston Works Fontaine when it arrived here in GR Research. In fact, I've got it printed off here, and yeah, that was bad. It was really bad, and so first thing I did was just flip the polarity on the tweeter so that it would be acoustically back in phase, and that summed everything pretty well. And I thought, well, maybe they sent these out and they just wired them wrong. This wasn't the intention. Maybe somebody doing the wiring got it flipped or something like that. But I looked up information on it, and I could see I'm not the only one that's measured these this way. There was a big hole there, and then there was a big hump right in the area around 700 hertz or so, and so I just put a little notch filter on it and brought that big hump down there and balanced out the response. I thought, you know what, this is a cheap fix. Flip the polarity, add this little notch filter, and now your speaker is pretty smooth and balanced. In fact, let's look at the original frequency response. As I said, it was pretty bad, and it's as bad as anything I've seen come through here. And then after reversing the polarity, you can see the next measurement here. The green line is after I added the little notch filter to pull that hump down. The red line is the way it measured just after reversing the tweeter polarity. Next one I got in here was the Eggleston Works OSO. It's a higher end model. It has a similar style upper section, but it had a side firing woofer on it, and it was also beautifully done. The cabinets were gorgeous. Again, I'm seeing a big hole in the response there. The tweeter was out of phase from the drivers, and there's a big hole. Let's take a look at it. And then you can also tell that the tweeter's a little bit hotter than the rest of the output. It's like, oh, man. So in that case, I went in, I left the crossover that was on the low-frequency driver. I started with that and said, you know what, let's leave it. I'm not going to be able to change the bass output, and the range in which they're crossing it was good. So I left the low frequency filter on there, and I redesigned everything for the tweeter and the mid bass drivers, and I got this measurement. And as you can see, it was a lot smoother, and the parts quality went up a lot. I was surprised to see just budget level Solon caps on this thing and some Solon coils. Nothing fancy. It's a little less than what we send out with our base level budget kits that we send out that are just supposed to be bang for the buck stuff. So the improvement in the crossover parts was significant, and I did some before and after sound clips with Ron. Ron helped me record it before I did the upgrade and then after I did the upgrade, and the differences in those was really significant. If you haven't watched that video, go back and watch and listen to the sound clips. Not only does it sound better because it's linear, but you can clearly hear a lot of resolution and detail. And even in the sound clips, you can pick up the size of the sound stage and how much more it opened up the sound stage by going to those higher quality parts. So now I get my third Eggleston speaker in for upgrades. This is, again, the Andra 3. And I did some research on this one. I looked up earlier models of this, the Andra 1, the Andra 2. And I noticed in the frequency response measurements that Stereophile took of the Andra 1, it had that same big hole in the response where the drivers were out of phase. In fact, let's take a look at it. You can see a pretty big hole there. It's not good. So next they came out with the Android 2. So they went in, they redesigned the crossover, and let's take a look at that measurement. Again, this is pretty rough, and there's a huge hump down there at the base that may or may not be that strong. I know when John Atkinson takes these measurements, he'll go in and he'll do a near field measurement on the woofer and or the port, and he'll splice that into the rest of the response. And sometimes I think it's spliced in at a level that's a lot higher than it really is, so it may not be that bass heavy down low, but there's some big 5 dB swings in the response. In fact, it's more than 5 dB. It's like 6 or 6.5 dB swings in the response of this Android 2. So it's like, okay, they fixed the out of phase issues, but there's still some things going on there with the crossovers. Like, things are just not quite like they're supposed to be. And I kind of found the same thing with this Android 3. Let's take a look at the Onaxis measurement. And what you can see is the output levels of these little woofers here is quite a bit higher in level than the tweeter. The tweeter is down in level compared to these drivers. And then I did a measurement of just the lower woofer on its own, which is an isobaric loaded woofer. There's another one of these woofers right behind it, so it's got kind of a push-pull configuration. What that does is it takes the airspace that this driver needs and it cuts it in half. So basically you're using the motor structure of 2 drivers to control the motion of a single cone, which is the one here in the front. Or in other words, you get the output of a single woofer, but you're getting the control of 2 motor structures on that driver because it's kind of a push-pull configuration. It doesn't change the output. It doesn't really offer a lot of advantages other than it cuts the airspace in half. And as you can see by the size of this thing, if it were twice as deep, it would be really big. So maybe that was a good move. I would have probably put a servo-controlled woofer in the bottom that needed smaller airspace and would have had variables on there you could control and change it and things like that. But hey, they went with what they went with. It looks like one of the Dyne Audio drivers. And then I think these are Morel, possibly. And I think they've changed the tweeter from the other versions. And instead of using the Dyne Audio tweeter, it's using a Morel tweeter. And this may be a Morel driver as well. They look exactly the same on the outside. And I haven't taken it apart yet. I will. I'm going to take all this apart and go through it and see what's going on the inside. But at first I had to see, okay, what's going on the outside. Let's look at the vertical off-axis measurements, and you can see we're on tweeter axis and we're going up 4 inches at a time per measurement, and I'm not seeing a big change in the time arrival too much. They've kept it pretty well in phase over a pretty good range. It's starting to suck out a little bit there as you get a little bit higher up, but overall that's pretty good, especially considering these are playing at the same range. So the acoustic center is from here to here. So the acoustic centers are pretty far apart. I will probably go in and change this to where the acoustic centers are only from here to here. I'll let this driver play all the way up to the tweeter and then blend this one in a little lower in region, and then of course have to cross it to the one below. Horizontal off axis looked really good. I'm not seeing any problems where there's surface reflection or diffraction causing anything really bad. As you move off axis, it's dropping off axis really well. And the coolest part about this thing, this is what I like seeing, the spectral decay is really clean. So in the range that these drivers are playing, I'm not seeing any stored energy. That is a huge plus. And to me that says really good bones. That means I can go in and make some adjustments and balance this out and put higher quality parts in there, and I don't expect any problems in doing so. It all looks really good. The impedance curve drops a little low down there at the bottom. It looks like it's dropping down below 4 ohms by just a little bit. 3.8 ohms, not a lot. It's a pretty flat impedance curve, which is great, but it looks to me like they designed this thing based on impedance curves and electrical parameters rather than acoustic output, and that's why we're seeing a jacked up acoustic output level but a great electrical load to the amplifier. So yeah, I'm just gonna have to go through this thing and figure out what I can do, and I just wanted to throw this out there and give you guys an update that I'm working on another Eggleston, it's a pretty cool project. These are really nice speakers, and I may just have to reach out to these guys. I would really love to work with these guys and go in and work with their product lines and design the crossovers for these things, because I think I could really help them. And I think they have a really good product and they have good drivers. Just need a little help on the guts inside. So if you guys see this and you want to reach out, please do. Hang in there. We got more videos coming. I got some more cool ones I got to shoot over the weekend. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do so. Hit the like button so that we'll get some more views. I do this just for you guys. I know you love upgrade videos, and we're going to get to see what I can do to this, and I'm going to follow it up with some more videos. So look forward to those, and we'll see you guys in the next video.